All right, everyone. Welcome to Bridget McNulty's workshop. Bridget, thank you so much for joining us today at Expo North. We're going to be focusing on what's your story and branding. Bridget, we're very lucky to have her. She is an author, a writer, a content strategist. She's also founder of Now Novel. She's founder of Sweet Life magazine. I could go on. Bridget, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And what a treat to be spending time with all you amazing creatives. I've had such fun looking through your profiles the last couple of days. So I thought before we began, I would just give kind of an overview of what brand is and why you should care about it. It's a funny thing because if you look up like the actual definitions of brands, people give you all kinds of different definitions. And some people say, oh no, it's to do with your logo. And some people say it's to do with your name itself and how many people can remember it, or your website or your social media. But actually what brand is the story that people tell about who you are. So what we want to aim to get down to today is a one-liner, a simple way, so that if people say to you, oh, what do you do, what's your company, you can give them an answer. And the answer is memorable enough and simple enough that they can remember it and then tell their friends, and then their friends can tell their friends. And the goal here is that we want the brand to be smashable. So this comes from a very old story in the beginning of the 1900s, where the Coca-Cola said to their designer they wanted a bottle that was so distinctive that even if it smashed to pieces, they would still be able to tell that it was a Coke bottle. So that's where those distinctive round edges came from. And in today's world, I think of smashable more as if someone sees something from you and they only have a tiny little slice of an experience, will they know that it's from your brand? So in the olden days, pre-COVID, even like pre-internet, think about going to Harrods. We went to England when I was a 10-year-old, and we went into Harrods and it was amazing. Everything you saw was Harrods branded, right? The air smelled like Harrods. Anything you tasted was Harrods. Everything you saw was Harrods. That's an immersive brand experience. And that is almost impossible, I think, to have these days, especially when you think about the online and digital experience that we have. So what we want to try and get to today is something that feels authentic for you, something that is easy to understand, and something that can be smashable enough that if someone has a taste of your brand on Instagram, or sees a snippet of a video interview you did, or sees your website, or sees the products that you create, they'll understand that those things are all connected together. That's the end goal. So this becomes more urgent if we think of the time of COVID and the weird year that we are all living through, because so much of our lives have moved online. So there's more of a time urgency in that you don't have the luxury of someone wandering down the street and walking into a shop and being able to hold your product, or being able to have a slow kind of intimate engagement and slowly fall in love with it. We have these short slices of time where we have to convince people straight away that what you have to offer is worthy, and everything has moved online. And so the way that we have to do that is online. I was going to say unfortunately online, but actually there are a lot of amazing things about an online experience, especially if we can make them seem authentic. And I think that's what I really try to do. I probably should have started with my profile, but Jess was so kind introducing me. As she said, I'm a content strategist. I'm the co-founder of Sweet Life Diabetes Community, which is South Africa's largest online diabetes community. I'm also the co-founder of Now Novel, which is a website that helps you write the first draft of your novel. I'm a published author, and all of these things kind of tie together. I like to call myself a brand storyteller. That's my latest title, because they all tie together around story. The way that we connect to each other, even though we're living these digital lives, and even though we're all obsessed with our phones and we're all online too much, the way that we connect to each other is through story. And so if we can find the story that's at the core of your brand, that's such a beautiful way to connect with other people. And I'll tell you how I got to here, to doing what I'm doing now. The thing that really made the huge difference for me, I've been working for various brands as their content strategist, and content strategy essentially is finding the root of what your story is and then figuring out how to tell it. So what medium you should be telling it, and if you're telling it on your website, if that's through pictures or articles or videos, or it's just different ways of connecting with people. And Sweet Life, our diabetes community, has been around for 9 years. We started in 2011 as a print magazine that we were distributing around the country 4 times a year. And then after 5 years, we moved everything online. We'd already had a website and a Facebook page, but then we moved everything online. And we kind of stumbled along for a little while, and we didn't really know who we were. And that's why I'm so passionate about this now, is that there were 2 tipping points for us. The first was that we became a nonprofit, so people knew what box to put us in. They were like, oh, that's the diabetes nonprofit. Okay, we know where to put them. And the second was that I found the story that properly connected for me, the authentic story that properly connected with why I care about this work. And before that, we'd been saying, oh, we're a diabetes lifestyle magazine, or, oh, we offer advice and information, trusted information from doctors. All of that's true. We offer information in an easy to understand way. I hadn't not been telling the truth, but I hadn't figured out what it was that I really cared about. And what it is that I really care about, that I now know, is that we offer a way to show that it's possible to live a healthy, happy life with diabetes. So that's my one-liner. What does Sweet Life do? We show how to live a healthy, happy life with diabetes. And the reason I care about that so much is that because when I was first diagnosed, I was sent home with these stacks of super depressing literature. And everything I read said, oh, you're now at greater risk of amputation, blindness, heart failure, kidney disease. And nowhere in anything that I read did it say, or you could live a perfectly normal, happy, healthy life with diabetes. You just have to look after yourself. And so that's our mission. And as soon as we had the structure right, so we knew we were a nonprofit, and then we knew what the authentic story behind us was, all of a sudden it took off. I could keep talking, but I'm not going to. I have one more thing I want to say before we dive in, is that we are living in a stage now where there's this attention economy. So they talk about the attention economy, which is when we used to be able to buy attention from people. So like when Google first came out, when Facebook first came out, when YouTube first came out, these big companies bought our attention. So they forced stuff in front of us that we had to watch or we had to look at. And that's why we got hooked on them. But we're past that now. We're now in a stage where we're all exhausted. We're all maxed out on attention. We have no more time to give. Netflix's founder famously said that their main competitor is sleep. They're competing against sleep because that is the only thing left. That's the only way left that we're able to get our attention and our time. So knowing that that is the world that we're living in at the moment, this is why we need to find the authentic story, because we're past the attention economy now, and now we're in a space where we have to find a kind way to connect with people so that they want to pay us attention. We don't want to be grabbing the attention from them. Okay, now I'm going to dive in. What I've tried to do, I've looked at each of your websites or your social media profiles, and I found a couple of questions that I have for you or suggestions that I have. And what I'd love is if we could just have a bit of a conversation, and hopefully you will find things that are helpful in other people's feedback as well. So Sandra Murray, you are first up. Your clothes look so beautiful. I was so tempted to go and see if it was possible to ship any of them to South Africa. I think we don't even know, our postal system isn't even working at the moment, so that is not an option right now. The first thing that caught my attention actually was that you offer your website translated into Japanese. So it said English, Gaelic, and Japanese. And there has got to be a story there. What is the story there?
The story
Japanese
is
people know about you.
Through Highlands and Islands Enterprise and Scottish Textiles, I went on a mission with a team of people to an exhibition in Tokyo. So then the Shishbone, I think the newspaper, covered the story, and I thought, yeah, just get it translated by the team over in Tokyo. And but I haven't sold anything for Japanese.
But how fascinating that someone from Highlands and Islands has a Japanese connection. I think that's so great. So I definitely wanted to know more about that. Then your pictures are so beautiful. The clothing is so beautiful, but I couldn't figure out, looking at it, what you do. I couldn't figure out what your one-liner was. And even then, when I looked back at what Ashley had said me, she said, you're a designer, a couturier, and an artisan. Is there any way to take those three into one? What's the I don't know the difference. What's the difference between?
Well, the artisan is, I actually make everything from start to finish. So I don't just design the clothes. I'm a one-shop stop. So I design, consult, make, deliver everything. So it's a holistic kind of delivery. So because a lot of designers don't make clothes, whereas I'm the dressmaker, tailor, artisan who makes everything.
So we need to know that. What's a couturier?
A couturier is the person who makes it, who actually does the needlework.
So then you could probably, got it. So then if there's a way to, instead of calling yourself a designer, couturier and artisan, if there's a way to make that into one sentence and then elaborate on that, because to me, that is so beautiful. The thought of someone like hand stitching.
It's probably because there's an aesthetic side and there's a technical side to the job. So, the artist in me does the aesthetics, the technician, Petiman, does the actual kind of technicalities, and these two merge together. So because they're separate, it needs two words. There's no one word that captures the job.
So then you need to explain to me why there's no one word. So say, like, because what you've just told me now, I didn't get at all looking at the website. I could see that you design clothes. I just assumed that everyone who is a designer then sent them off to a seamstress who would just execute it. Like, the fact that you're doing it yourself is amazing. And I think that elevates it to a whole different level too, because it shows that it is actually a work of art. It's not just something that's being hurriedly put together. It's not something that's being mass produced. So those are such rich, important elements to come through. And I'd love to see them as soon as I get to your website, so that you immediately set yourself apart from other people who are just designing and getting them produced somewhere. And then my other question was the hierarchy. There are so many options that I had to choose. I didn't know where to start, where to click, which was important. So if you wanted people to go, if you could think of your website as a journey, if you wanted people to walk through it as a journey, try and think about where you would want them to begin, what's important for them to know as you go along, what could be put in the bottom menu perhaps. So there's some details that are either not that important now, or I know there were workshops and that kind of thing. If you're not able to be running those at the moment because of COVID, maybe those go down, just to give fewer options so that it's clearer to me what I should do. Because everything looks good, but the trouble is it's like being at a buffet and then everything looks good and you're just like, I don't know where to go. So I would love to come to the site, see the beautiful pictures, have this added element of the richness that you offer that most people don't, and then lead me on a journey through the site so that I know which parts you want me to pay attention to. And that's something very personal, because if someone were coming to your house and you were doing like a showcase of your garments or of your pictures or something like that, it's the story you would tell them in person. If you could try and create an online version of that, that would be great. And then I saw so I went to and read your story. The story itself is amazing, but there's no highlights pulled out. So what I found fascinating is that you've done a linear story, and then like the last paragraph said, showcases in New York and Tokyo, a TV documentary, and MBE for services to Scottish fashion and textiles. Those are extraordinary details. Those should be front and center on your homepage. Like, I'll be talking more later about you want everything, the most important information to be above the fold. So essentially when someone comes to your website, they're given a page, and before they have to scroll to see anything more, either on your website or on a phone, it's the same thing. You want the most important information to be there. So your website as it is at the moment shows me your beautiful clothes, but doesn't tell me the details of who's making them, and doesn't tell me all these other juicy details like your showcases and the documentary and the MBE. Those things will inevitably, as a visitor, change the way that I feel about what I'm about to see. And then my last feedback was that your images are amazing, and shouldn't you maybe have an Instagram profile? Because
I've only just kind of like started, opened ones. So I haven't really kind of, I'm a bit wary about using the models on Instagram because, you know, you've got sections. So it would only have to be certain images that you can actually use on that.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yes, of course. Because they're just so beautiful. I would just like to be able to see them. Like they were so rich and evocative that I think they would do very well on Instagram. And then, sorry, I said the last one was my last point. I got very into all this. I also thought there was something really wonderful and interesting about the fact that you're taking Scottish textiles to the world. So the picture showed me this, but the words didn't necessarily tell me this. And I wonder if there isn't a way when you are crafting this one-liner that you bring in something about taking Scottish textiles to the world, because you've taken really traditional textiles and made them so fresh and modern and exciting, but in such an interesting way. It's not like you've just, I mean, you know this obviously, but I was surprised. It's not like you've just made a miniskirt out of tartan. Like the juxtaposition is really surprising and delightful. And I was wondering if there was a way to bring that element of it too. And maybe that links into the MBE, that like you see yourself as someone who's sharing what you love about Scotland and Scottish textiles with the rest of the world, an ambassador. That's the word I was looking for. Those were my thoughts. Do you have any questions, or does that make sense?
I think it's probably time I did a book, because I think, you know, I've been doing so many different things over 40 odd years that probably because I've got very good quality images, then, and also I'm kind of on a current kind of lockdown sort of special project, that probably a book would be maybe my next thought.
That sounds like a great idea. It would be so beautiful.
My web designer in London is a you know, very highly respected web designer, Misha Wiegman, and so he, you know, I feel he wrote the story, but you say that you haven't picked up a lot of the actual content that.
No, so I got the details, but I had to read the whole thing, and I wanted those juicy details to be
And I launched a login viewing room just last month. So you obviously didn't log in. I didn't see you logging into it.
I didn't log in. I didn't really understand what I was supposed to do there.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
So if you press viewing room, then you can log in and you can see, because I decided that, you know, with lockdown that I could maybe catch an international audience by putting 8 of my archive sort of unique pieces to sell, because bespoke is not an option at the moment. I can't see clients, so I had to kind of rethink the plot, and I saw the art galleries were having viewing rooms, and I thought, okay, I'll go for viewing room.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. So that's so I'm just,
maybe,
I need to do some.
I don't know why I didn't get it. I know. I wonder if maybe you need to spell it out more.
I need to promote the viewing room. Yeah. So that's the next job.
Okay. You got to work hard for you then. A book and a viewing room promotion. So fun.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fun couple of months.
As a soul trader, one-woman band, I think I have to think, you know, I have to have lots of balloons in the air.
Yeah. No, I think your work is beautiful. Okay, next up was Corinna Campbell.
Hello.
Hi. So I don't know if you guys present each other's details. So Corinna is a picture book author and illustrator. And as I said earlier, before everyone was on the call, I think she has mastered the art of the Zoom background, because if ever there was a Zoom background for a picture book author and illustrator, that's it. So what I loved about your website was that it was a very consistent experience. I loved that all the pictures and the photos and the language were all really fun, that they felt I have kids myself. They felt like many of the kids' books that I read, you look exactly the same as your pictures, which is always a good thing, and very often doesn't happen. And it felt like a really welcoming space. Like I was happy to spend time there. I wanted to look around, and the consistency was really impressive because you also did it all the way down. What did you do that? Oh, there was a video that said like, look, Mom, I'm on TV. Like the language was all lovely. It was very, very consistent. I didn't really know what you wanted me to do. So I think that's a point to consider when it's such a welcoming space. It's lovely for people to hang out, but do you want me to buy a book or sign up for your newsletter? I saw something about Zoom calls on the homepage, but I didn't really know what it was. And then when I dug deeper on the other pages, I saw. So then when I dug deeper, you said digital events and local visits to schools, nurseries, and festivals, but that was tucked away on the book page. And I probably just would never have found that. So if you could think about, so I think you've got who you are, you've got that waxed picture book author and illustrator is very clear. It's very obvious what kind of style you're doing and even what kind of age children that you would appeal to.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted some more direction on where you wanted me to go and what you wanted me to do. So I think it's quite fascinating that you've had to pivot so early in the journey, that your book has just come out and you had to pivot before it had even come out. And so because you've got that, I wonder if you aren't uniquely placed to set yourself apart from other children's book authors right from the start. So my main question for you is, what sets you apart from other children's book authors? And what I got from your website was biscuits and willingness. I like that you mentioned biscuits like 6 or 7 times. The biscuits are very good. Our biscuits here are not so good. But you also seem to have a real willingness to meet people and to meet kids where they are. And I think that's because you said you were a teacher. And so the fact that you were able, like that video that you did was awesome, except it mentioned November. So you would obviously have to take out the November bit and then do a version of that on the homepage.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're willing to do digital events and able to do them, and the local visits, there's something in there, and I don't know exactly what it is, but there's something in there that you could almost rebrand yourself as a children's book author of the future. Because, so for example, my kids are 4 and 6, and their favorite time is every day is at 2 o'clock when they get to listen to stories being read to them on YouTube, and they follow a channel called Kid Time Storytime. We've been through Storyteller, we've been through Storyline Online, and all they want to do, so ideally they would like me to read to them all day long, but I have to work. So they get read to every day. And I feel like there is such a gap for a UK version of that. So all the ones that they listen to are American and painfully American, which is, I love Jessica, but the accent is hard for me to listen to sometimes. And especially if you are a UK parent, you don't want them learning to say words wrong. And so it feels to me like there's the potential for you to set yourself apart as a children's book author, and you decide which direction that is. So maybe it is that you do these digital events, but you find a way, and you, excuse me, you practice on your kids and you practice on your kids' friends. You find a way to make it engaging for kids, because most digital events are not engaging for kids.
No. And
you use your teacher background to do that, or so that's one option, right? Like you become the digital sort of book author. The other option is that you create like a story hour thing where you hero your book and read your book often, or choose themes that are related because they are about with girl heroes or something like that. Like a girl hero story hour would be great for those of us with girl children. Or alternatively, you hyper localize yourself. So you make yourself the children's book author of either your town or we call them provinces.
Of the area.
Of your area. And then you make sure that you go to every school and every library and every festival in the area. Or you do both. But I would be wary of going down the middle path. So the middle path is a children's book author who has a lovely book and doesn't really know what to do with it because the prescribed path of doing the stuff that would have worked a year ago isn't working now. So that is just, that way lies disappointment. But there is actually such potential, and you are uniquely placed with your teacher background and the fact that you have 3 kids. I mean, I don't know how you wrote a book with 3 kids in the house. I have 2, and that's enough for me. But you're uniquely placed to figure out what would work and to make it your own. And then this becomes the first step on a journey, which is very exciting.
Yeah, no, that's great actually. I think I probably didn't know what direction I should go in. I've got it to this point, and this is probably why I came in via Expo North and saw you were running this workshop, is because I didn't really know what next step to take or which direction to start going. I built the platform, we'd launched the book, and I'm now going, what's next? Like, where do I go? So it was really good to get somebody coming in and looking at everything and saying, this is where I see the direction, because I've started to do a bit of that. It's Book Week Scotland next week, and I'm doing digital workshops for schools, but the uptake hasn't been quite there yet. So I'm still needing to I'm probably needing to create content, I think, free content, in order to get people to then come in and buy content thereafter. But it's getting there, but it's definitely out with my comfort zone.
Yeah, to me, I wonder, because so think about what you did with your kids during lockdown and what you wish you'd had with your kids during lockdown. So to me, I was sent everything in the beginning, obviously, and there were all these resources. I didn't want, so this is me personally, and this will say a lot about my parenting style, but I didn't really want anything that I had to do. I wanted something that would give me 10 minutes to have a cup of tea and scroll through Instagram, or maybe even reply to some emails. So I think that's one part, is if you want to appeal to the parents, give them a break. Don't give them more stuff that they have to download and print out or hand over their device to someone to their kids for. And then the kid perspective, this is actually what I think is very interesting. So we know that reading books online to kids works well. And we know that like puppet stuff works well, but you can do some research and see if there's anything else that works. So I'm not surprised you didn't get a lot of uptake for digital workshops. I don't even know what this is a digital workshop, I suppose. I was going to say, I don't even know what a digital workshop is. This is a digital workshop, but it's for adults, so we can understand it more. You're uniquely placed with your kids and your teaching background and your friends' kids and your kids' friends to figure out what actually works. So you could just test a bunch of stuff on them and watch them. Like, so record stuff, watch them watching it, and some of it will stick and some of it won't stick, and most of it won't stick. But if you could find something that works, then you figured out what many people are trying to figure out.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There's so many times I let my kids engage in something that had been produced for the internet to do with books, and they couldn't engage. They were too young. Like, they couldn't. There was just nothing. It was a blank face, and they couldn't engage with what was going on. So yeah, there's definitely something in that I need to. Definitely need to explore that.
And I think it's probably a research thing. What I find fascinating about this stage is that no one knows what to do. So like, we were all like, what, we can't do real life anymore? And then, I mean, this is, Expo North has found this works. So they found something that works. But many other people tried many things that didn't work. I mean, I've tried so many things that didn't work. I've had like 25-person Zoom calls where no one says anything in the chat and you just talk at yourself. Like, and I think if you can approach it with a sense of fun and a sense of adventure and like what experimentation, like, could this work? Who knows if this works? And see what your kids are really like doing, see what how they connect in real life, and then see how you could translate that.
Take that. And do you think that should be at the
curious.
Yeah. Do you think that should be at the forefront of the website in terms of, you were talking about that kind of walkthrough journey on the website? Should that really be the flagship, the thing that people, they see the book, I suppose they get a bit of the story, and then here's what's on offer in terms of, I guess, digital content? I
would say so if it were me, I would want people to buy the book. So I would make that as easy as possible. So front and center, come to my website, buy the book. That would be the clear call to action above the fold. And then whatever you create below that can be the community. So what's great about the point that you're at now is that you've got a book, so you're legit, but you, if you want to write more, which I think you said you did, you have the space now to create a community that the next time you launch a book, you have someone to
the audience
to launch it to. Yeah. So if you can create something that is purely offering to a community, so you're saying buy the book, but then once they bought the book, you're not asking them for anything else. You're just saying like, come here, let me make your life easier. Let me make being a parent easier. Let me make your kids happy for 10 minutes. Then you create this community that you need to give them a name. Can't be called Corinna Campbell.
No.
That then will be there when you write the next book. But I think make it obvious how to buy the book and make it super easy to buy the book.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. Next we have Hazel. Do we have Hazel? No. Shall I skip ahead? Yeah. Morven. Hang on. Morven May McCallum. Oh, so we're going from one book to another. I love it. So Morven May is an author, for those who don't know. I really enjoyed your website. It reminded me so much of my website. I think we may have even like opened with the same hello and welcome to my site. I think I said the same thing, yeah. And it was so interesting to me because I've never looked at my own website critically, obviously, because what's it called? The tailor's children always have bad shoes or whatever. And I feel like you have all the right ingredients, but they're mixed together in an odd way. So it's the same advice I was saying earlier is you want to take us on a journey. When someone is coming to your site, make it really obvious, upfront, above the fold, why they need to care, and then lead us on a journey. So at the moment, I wasn't really sure where you wanted me to start. And this is what reminded me of my website, because mine's like, hey, I have a blog, I do content strategy, I do talking, I see stuff. And there's no journey on my website, so I'm going to look at that very soon. But to think about, so what can we see above the fold? Someone comes to your site, the first scroll is so important. And at the moment, what you've got is a Joyce quote, the subtitle home, and then half the cover of your book. And so the Joyce quote is a lovely quote, but you don't want to be wasting that precious space on someone else's words. You don't need the subtitle of home. I sent my website to a friend recently, and all he wrote back was, in 2020, no one needs to have a home button on their website. And I was like, ooh, okay. And it's true, because we all know how to get home. Now we know you just click in the corner and it takes you home. And then I really was looking for the one-liner about your story. So again, when I went digging, it's a very dramatic story, but I don't know that right at the start. So I only got that when where did I go to? I went into like your story section or your about me section, and then it's told again in a linear way. I wanted something, I don't know how old you were, but it's like when I was 21 years old, and I don't even know, this is how little I know about Lyme disease, which shows how important the work is. I said, so I would like something that said like, when I was 21 years old, I got bitten by a tick. That moment left me bedbound for 8 years. This is my story, like something like that. The fact that you were housebound and bedbound for 8 years blows my mind. Is that really what happens with Lyme disease?
Yeah, so I was about 14 and a half when I contracted Lyme disease, and then I became completely housebound and bedbound when I was about 16. And I've been on
From
like,
one
10
bite?
years of treatment for it now. So yeah.
Just from a tick bite?
Yeah, because I was left undiagnosed and untreated for about 4 or 5 years, which is a really common thing because the blood tests are really inaccurate. So there's thousands of people like me who are just kind of left with this disease to just run rampant throughout their entire bodies before they're actually diagnosed.
Wow. So to me, that's what you want to lead with. So first of all, I mean, that you were so young makes it even more dramatic. bedbound or housebound for 8 years is inconceivable to most people. So if I were to read that, like now, I'm like, how do I know nothing about Lyme disease? That seems impossible. Like I'm trying to like rack my brain for anything that I know about it, and all I know is that it's caused by a tick bite. I assumed it was like tick bite fever, which we have in Africa, where you like are sick for a little while and then you get better. So I think you need to decide what one-liner you feel comfortable with, and you don't want it to be, if your style is not dramatic, then you don't want it to be overly dramatic because it won't feel authentic, but something that speaks to how confusing it was, or how momentous it was, and how much you wished that there had been more information. And tell us in that, like as soon as I get to the site, my 2 questions were, why should we care about Lyme disease? And why should we buy the book if we don't have Lyme disease? So I'm sure that anyone who has Lyme disease or whose family member has Lyme disease is so relieved that there's finally a book that speaks to it, and that speaks to it in a fictionalized way, and so I would imagine like a friendlier way than any kind of textbook would. So those people, you're not selling to them, although it is also nice, as I was saying earlier, to build a community, and there's definitely like space to be building this community around that. But I kind of think we should all know about it. Like if it could have saved you a year and a half of not knowing what was wrong with you, and could have helped you get better sooner, like that seems like an urgent and critical problem for us to have information about. And so yeah, I would say as soon as someone gets to your site, you want to give them the most important information as quickly as possible, and then they're hooked, and then you can lead them on the journey through the rest of it and say, well, this is what I wrote, and this is why I wrote it, and this is the story, and this is where you can buy it from, and that kind of thing. But the hooking in the beginning is so important. Someone told me once, and I hope this stat is wrong, I don't think it was, that you have something like 20 to 25 seconds after someone has reached your website to convince them to stay, which is what, like 2 sentences. So you really want to make sure that once someone is there, they know why they should stay, and they know why it applies to them.
Okay.
So I don't know if you have the answer. I mean, why we should care about Lyme disease, the answer is that I imagine that it could help you or someone you know.
Yeah.
Why should people who don't have Lyme disease buy the book?
I think to educate them on the realities of having such a disease. I mean, I think one of the things about Finding Joy is that it encases so many more illnesses than just Lyme disease, because there's so many chronic illnesses like ME, CFS, fibromyalgia, MS. It's such a huge thing, and a lot of the symptoms of Lyme disease overlap with other illnesses, which is why it's called the Great Pretender, because it mimics so many other different diseases. So the story itself is very relatable to other illnesses, not just Lyme disease itself, which I think is quite an important thing, which I probably, now I'm thinking about it, have not put across on the website. I have slowly, because I had a bit of a problem with my website and I lost about 2 years of data on it, so I've been like slowly rebuilding it. So I'm planning on having a drop-down menu which has information about ticks, Lyme disease prevention, and just basically to fill in the information gap on my website all about Lyme disease and why it's so important, and how to protect yourselves and your family and things. So I'm slowly trying to get around to doing that at the moment. So that's really interesting to have all that information when they first come onto the page, because then I can then direct them to those different sections.
Yeah,
so that'd be a really brilliant thing to do.
And I also think there's such, I mean, chronic illness. I'm living with diabetes, as I said earlier, and that's almost a more visible one because I have to inject, and also type 2 diabetes is huge stigma around. Type 1 diabetes there isn't really, but there's something about living with invisible chronic illness that is so hard. And you can, as you said, it relates to so many different conditions. One of my very good friends has MS, and you would never know it to look at her, but the extra mental load of what is going on in her mind all the time, and her fatigue levels. And I mean, I know another friend of mine had, what's the horrible nickname for it? Yuppie flu, chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
And there was just no sympathy whatsoever. People were just like, get out of bed, stop being lazy. And he was like, in actual pain from being so exhausted, but because they don't really know what the root is and they don't really know where it comes from. And I think you have such a unique opportunity here to form a community and like a coalition of people who understand what this is like. And so I take back what I said earlier. I said they weren't your target market. Now I think they are your target market, because they can be your preachers and go out and tell everyone about the book. Because imagine, I mean, you must be able to imagine, because it's what you've done, but living through an experience and no one understands it, and you don't have the vocabulary to tell someone what it's like, and then being given a book that explains what it's like, that you could hand to someone and say, you've been asking what it's like, this is what it's like, read this book and you'll understand. That's such a gift. And I think the more you can kind of broaden the net to those other conditions as well, and almost cast yourself in whatever way you're comfortable, but cast yourself as the voice for invisible chronic illness, like that's a real gift that you have created this. I would also want to know, is there a UK society for Lyme disease?
Yeah, so there's Lyme Disease UK, and I'm one of their volunteer admin team. So I help out with them, and I represent them in Scotland.
Okay. And do they have any kind of presence or community or anything?
Yeah, so they've got a really big community. They've got an online support group of over 10,000 people. They've got social media everywhere. Facebook, they do a lot of work in sort of political levels to try and raise awareness, to try and bring about change. They do a lot of work in schools and places like that as well.
So the commercial side of me is thinking that now would be the right time to ask them if you could create a post to go on all their social media that this is a very helpful Christmas present book, because if someone is living with Lyme disease, they would want their family to know about it, and a book is always a good Christmas present. And so maybe there's something there. And then maybe there might be some kind of, like, the word coalition keeps coming to mind, and there might be some kind of coalition vibe, that is not the right word, but where you could combine the Lyme disease stuff with the ME association, with another association, so that you could almost be the central point for those.
Yeah, there's a lot of difficulty when it comes to sort of associating Lyme disease to other illnesses, because most people who have Lyme disease have been wrongly diagnosed with ME or CFS and fibromyalgia, and so they want to keep themselves very much apart from those other illnesses.
Okay.
So that's something that I kind of looked into doing, but it's something I kind of excluded because there is a sense of don't quite know what the right word is, but a lot of aggravation. People don't want to be associated, if they have Lyme disease, they don't really want to be associated with ME or CFS.
Okay.
So there is that
kind of makes sense
around it.
Yeah. It's so weird that we draw these weird lines of stigma. We're like, well, it's okay if you have this one, not if you have that one. I found that a lot in the diabetes world too, and I found it fascinating. But yeah, I think you have real potential here to be a voice, and also a voice for hope. And so maybe there's last words, I promise. I'm almost on time. Maybe there's a potential here to record some kind of video or something that so your website is your name, and then maybe there's space to frame yourself as, if you said you're already the spokesperson or relates to Lyme disease in Scotland, maybe there's a space to frame yourself as the spokesperson for Lyme disease, like the positive spokesperson for Lyme disease. And that could be a really short video too, that just makes it more personal when someone comes to the site, that they kind of get to meet you, because you come across very well on videos. So if they could get to meet you, and you could say, like, this is my purpose and what I'm doing here on the site, because you can explain it really well, but it wasn't clear just from the website. Okay. So that's I'm going to say them one more time. The questions that I wanted answers were, why should we care about Lyme disease? And why should we buy this book if we don't have it? And so even if you just answer those questions in a short video and in the intro copy of your site, I think that could be very helpful.
That's great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, such a pleasure. I mean, the quality of the people I was looking at was so exciting. So we still don't have Hazel, so it is Sadie's. Hi, Sadie, do you want to unmute yourself? Can I unmute you? No, I can't. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. So Sadie is an artistic director for Walking Theatre and Murder Mystery Scotland. It was very fun looking at your website. I wish you did the murder mystery things here. They looked very entertaining. So what I loved was that as soon as I came onto the Walking Theatre website, it was very clear what you do. I think your intro image says innovative theatre anywhere, which I loved. But from then on, I didn't know what I was supposed to do. There was so much information. So there were details. It felt like I was saying earlier about the buffet. I felt like I was being sold the whole menu. So what would be great is if I knew what hole you were filling. So at the moment, it feels like I'm coming to the site and you're saying, here are all these lovely gifts I can offer you. What I would love is if I came to the site and you said, this is who you are and this is how I can help you. So rather than framed as offers, frame it as solutions. I imagine that you know who your target market are, because you must know who books you frequently. And so if you could speak to their pain point. So someone is coming to your site to find a solution for a specific problem. If you could speak to what that problem is and then offer the solution for it straight away, it makes it easier than me having to look at the whole menu and decide which part of that is going to be best suited to me. So off the top of my head, I was saying it would be things like, do you need a way to reconnect with your team? Or are you looking for a family reunion that isn't awkward? Like things like that. And I think because the product that you're offering is so fresh and unique and original, you can make the copy similarly approachable. So I don't think it has to be particularly formal or staid. And if you can think of who those people are who have booked you before and had great success, and it's been what they're looking for, and then how you would characterize those people, make it very clear how you would characterize them, and then what solution you would offer. And then if you compare those with the testimonials, that would be great. And then that's making the testimonials really obvious, because I kind of had to hunt for the testimonials a bit. And then what I found so interesting is that after I looked at the Walking Theatre website, I went to look at your murder mystery website, and you've completely done it. So then I was like, I don't even have anything fresh to offer, because on the murder mystery website, sorry?
There is a reason for that, and that's because the murder mystery website is specifically to a commercial market, so it's people who are looking for solutions. And the Walking Theatre Company website has to fit. I suppose one of the problems we've got in the UK, I don't know how it is for you, Bridget, where you are, is that within the creative sector, those people that are the definers of art, let's say in theatre, as in Creative Scotland, National Theatre, they have a very specific language. So that's why the Walking Theatre Company is kind of a bit
has to be more formal.
Personally, I hate it because it means I have to tick the boxes for those guys to make sure that I'm still an artist, a theatre company.
That is so funny.
And every time I've tried to take it into a more, language that I like, that would reach people, that people understand, then that we've always walked this horrible balance. It's very difficult. So I completely get it. I agree.
Yes, because then I went to the murder mystery site, and it was exactly the feedback I had. You had highlighted your target audience, made it obvious, and then given the answer immediately. And I was like, but but how can these be connected? So I want to come back to the language thing because I find that fascinating. But I did also think, then, can you connect the two sites? They are related?
They are related, yeah. So if you go to Murder Mystery,
connect.
Yeah.
I didn't see that was obvious.
Yeah, we should connect. We should make more of that. So yeah. Bridget, did you get the Zippity Zoom website?
No. What is Zippity
Okay.
Zoom?
So we've reframed what we do, because obviously as an events company we haven't worked since March. So it's been a really tough, where do we go, what do we sell? So having stood down 48 actors in March and struggled to yeah, I know, and it's not looking good. It's still not looking good. So we created, if I don't know if you've got access or if it's easy or quick, we created a website called Zippity Zoom, which is www.zippity-zoom.club, and that was a kids solution, so parents could go and have a break and kids could sit on this platform, get involved with actors, do activities, listen to stories. It's a real children's focused thing, and we're just moving that to a Patreon model. And Karina, I'd love to talk to you about reading your story. Yeah, I'd love to host an author. It'd be amazing. So that's been one of our
beautiful
digital offering, and we're just launching. Sorry, go on, carry on. I'll shut up.
No, you go.
And I'm sorry I'm late, and I'm sitting in my bed because I've broken my ankle. I did it a couple of days ago.
Heaven. Oh, this looks so fabulous. So going back, so that I like it when there's a problem. Here's what I want to suggest for the problem of having
how do I link everything?
Yeah, and having to use the formal language. Why don't you? So the trouble at the moment is that it's halfway in between, right? So the product that you're showing is delightful and fun, the walking theatre, and the language is kind of corporate or formal. And then the murder mystery stuff is super fun, and Zippity Zoom is super fun. So it's confusing as a visitor. Now that you've explained that it's because you have to tick certain boxes, I understand. But if they want you to be an artist and speak in a way that an artist speaks, can't you take it to more extreme and make it almost lavishly formal? So not playful and fun. I can see that Zippity Zoom would be too fun to be called an artist, although I mean the fact that even you have to change your language to be called an artist is insane. But I understand that it can't be too commercial, but isn't there a way to potentially tell the story of the Walking Theatre Club as if it is a story? So maybe even as if it's like a once upon a time story, or even use like some old English in the beginning, but make it almost elevate the art element of it so that it's not at all commercial. It's like, this is why we were born to be here on this earth, is to be able to take theatre no matter where we go and into any environment that we can, and like really up the creativity, artist, like higher calling stuff of it. And then somewhere nearer the bottom say, and you can also, if you're looking for a murder mystery, or if you're looking for Zippity, if you're looking for something to keep the kids busy, you can also look at that. But this almost becomes the like holding space for the artistic vision. Do you know what I mean? Instead of, because at the moment it's like almost offering me a corporate package for my team building, and almost saying that it's a theatre troupe, but if you could make it, just elevate the whole thing, be like, this is what we do, and this is our artistic vision, and this is our higher calling, and this is like, because the thing is, I'm sure you do have that feeling, like the work that you're doing is so awesome that you're taking theatre into spaces to connect with people who either aren't interested or who feel intimidated by real theatre, or like there is true artistic vision and mission there. And maybe if you just make that front and center of it, and then you can link out to the others and say, if you're looking for something more casual, we have murder mystery. If you're looking for something for the kids, we have Zippity Zoom. And the people who are looking for what you're offering will connect with that, but they'll connect with it in a way that it will feel more authentic to go from that. Once upon a time, there was a theatre troupe who believed that every person on earth deserved to experience theatre firsthand. That will tie in beautifully with the actual experience of your theatre, rather than the midway thing. And people who are creative, and I mean, you can also just slip in the creative pitch in there and say, like, I do think there's something around family reunions that, like, instead of a family reunion being awkward or filling awkward silences, like there's that kind of element that you're offering, but instead of spelling it out and being like, this is what we can offer you as a solution, you could tie it into, this is part of our vision, is to connect people and to fill awkward silences and to ensure that no matter how little you know each other, you can share a shared experience, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't believe you are being told what language to use. That's insane to me.
No, it's just about identity.
Yeah.
You know, it's particularly Creative Scotland. If anyone's had any tie-in with those guys, it's always a challenge. So I've always gone ahead and done my own thing. So,
and I suppose I can understand, because they don't want to be supporting companies who are just selling something. Like, they do want to actually be supporting the arts. I do understand it. It wouldn't have crossed my mind before. But I do think that's also a creative challenge for you while you have a broken ankle.
But then they should be supporting people as selling something, because that's why we're all here. We all want to sell our work, and it shouldn't undermine our artistic endeavour. But particularly in theatre, there's always this struggle between selling and being an artist. So that's really useful, Bridget. Thank you. It's really, really useful.
Oh, good. Great.
Super.
Yeah, and also, if you don't sell things, how you can survive? How you can do the next show?
Exactly.
Yeah, but there is like I think the vision that you have is really important and very beautiful, and you can find, while you're bedbound, you can find like the creative way that resonates with you to be able to communicate it, so that there's something. It's what I was saying in the beginning about, once Sweet Life became a nonprofit, we hit our stride because people knew what box to put us in, and you might even find that this helps you. This new way of language will help you get new clients, because they know what box to put you in. So if they can be like, oh, that's that traveling theatre group that believes that theatre should be available to every person in Scotland, or whatever that one line is, or the walking theatre group that doesn't believe that theatre should be confined within 4 walls, or whatever it is. If you can speak that vision very clearly and very succinctly, it will help other people to sell you. Because then they can be like, oh, I know exactly which box to put that in. And at the moment, because you're straddling corporate, commercial, and artistic, it's a little tricky. And that's why I was saying, just give me the solution. But if the solution is a high artistic vision that just happens to be in one sentence, then people also get a kick out of recommending you, because it feels like they're supporting the arts, which is like giving to a charity, which makes us all feel good. Yeah. And now I'm 6 minutes over time.
Yeah.
Surprise, there's no bell ringing.
But I am coming in. Thank you, Bridget, very much. It is, it's so wonderful to hear all your feedback. Also, with everybody's permission, we can share your contact information. CD, I know you said Corinna there might be some contact there. Marvin May, I have some thoughts for you as well, which I'll follow up with you. And Bridget, thank you so much again. We're going to try to get Bridget back for another workshop, and ideally I would really like a follow-up one. So if you guys do find that you're in the next stage of implementing some of these changes, it might be fun if we can get convince Bridget to come join us again to check on back. Bridget, thank you very, very much.
Oh, this is so fun. I'm so impressed with the wealth of talent that you guys have access to. And yeah, each of the websites was such a joy to look through too. So keep up the good work, everyone.
It's so great. And just to let everybody know again, you can watch this again if you want to hear the feedback. And for those of you who are going to be watching this but aren't participating, you can find Expo North on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, also online. And there's a lot of other course offerings coming up too, and we'll let you know when Bridget's going to be back.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, this was so fun.
Thank you.
Thank your story.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.